Film Hustle Podcast, episode 217. Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. Oscar Wilde.
Broadcasting from the back alley in Hollywood, it's the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, where we show you how to survive and thrive as an indie filmmaker in the jungles of the film biz. And here's your host, Alex Ferrari.
Welcome, my Indie Film Hustlers, to another episode of the Indie Film Hustle Podcast. I am your humble host, Alex Ferrari. Today's episode is brought to you by Blackbox. Blackbox is a new platform and community that is all about financial freedom for filmmakers like you. If you join Blackbox, you will be transformed from being a worker to being a maker of your own content. And you'll be making steady passive income from the global market. Blackbox currently allows you to upload your stock footage once, get it to many global agencies, and then allows you to share that passive income stream with your collaborators. Whether you want to submit old footage that's been sitting around in your hard drives or create brand new content, Blackbox is for you. It's really quite revolutionary. With Blackbox, filmmakers can concentrate on making great content while Blackbox takes care of all the business BS. Just visit www.blackbox.global to find out more. So continuing our Sundance interview series, co-produced with my good buddies over at Media Circus PR. If you guys need to get the word out on your independent film, Media Circus is for you. Check them out in the show notes. Today's guest is Elise McCave, and she is the head Yoda at Kickstarter for filmmakers. She is the one that is helping filmmakers get their films crowdfunded on the Kickstarter platform. So I wanted to bring her in so she could tell us a little bit about not only how Kickstarter can help filmmakers get the word out on their films, but generally what makes a good crowdfunding campaign for independent films, shorts, features, docs, and so on. And she dropped some major knowledge bombs in this episode. So without any further ado, here is my interview with Elise McCave from Kickstarter. Today we have Elise McCave. Thank you so much, from Kickstarter. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I wanted to bring you in because you are the Yoda of filmmaking, kickstarting, crowdfunding. Is this true?
I'm going to take that as 100% all complimentary. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So from your perspective, I want to get a little bit into the weeds about what makes a good crowdfunding campaign and where filmmakers make their mistakes. So what is what makes a good crowdfunding campaign in general for film?
Yeah, totally. I think for film, the best crowdfunding campaigns are the ones where a filmmaker is kind of connecting themselves with their audience through their film. So I think sometimes people make the mistake that they don't want to appear too much in their video, or maybe they're going to try and write their page in the third person. And actually, the best campaigns are the ones where you really align yourself with your project.
Personal.
Yeah, totally. I mean, these projects are really personal. And when you are appealing to a large number of people to, support you, to create that vision, you need to go personal.
Now, in the way the world works, people do not, give money to corporations as easily or to entities. They will give it to somebody, an artist. Yeah. And being more personal will help that.
I think, totally. And so also those great campaigns are the ones where you also kind of draw that relationship also between the kind of the material in the film as well. You can do that through the way you talk about it, also through the kinds of rewards you're offering as well. When you really kind of are giving people a kind of insight into the creative process, insight and access to kind of the folks in the film, whether it's a documentary or a narrative.
Now, this is one I know this is like a pet peeve of mine. Campaign videos. They are very unique and can vary from interesting to really well done. What are some tips to
You missed out terrible in that.
Yeah, I'm trying to be nice. There's some very bad ones. What are some tips that you would give filmmakers on how to actually make a campaign video that will actually convert?
Totally. My first tip is just keep it short. Imagine it's an elevator pitch. If it's 5 minutes long and you really think that there's no fat to cut off it, you're so wrong. So you need to really, for me, just if they're a minute and a half, That's the kind of campaign.
90 seconds.
Oh, please.
That's the sweet spot.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't kind of wrap it up in that amount of time, I'm not saying you're going to cover everything, but if you can't make a compelling pitch in 90 seconds, then you're not doing a great job. So,
do you suggest putting in clips from the movie? If you've shot some stuff, is it important?
Yeah, I think the thing is that people are funding at very different times in the timeline of their film. Some people are going to they're going to need to raise some money, on Kickstarter before they do anything, before they can, hire a sound person or whatever it is. That's the first thing. Some people are going to raise money for post production. Right. So you're somewhat constrained by where you're at in the process. I definitely think that the more that you can offer an audience to give them a flavor of what they're supporting, whether that is shots from your dailies or from your documentary, or if it's just like test footage that gives an idea of the kind of look and feel of the film.
Would you also suggest possibly using footage from past projects just to prove that you are a filmmaker and you can actually deliver what you're promising?
I think it does help, and in the same way that one of my pet peeves is when the audio on a project video is bad. Yeah. I'm like, how can we believe you're going to make a decent film for
$2 million?
If you can't even make a 90-second thing that sounds okay. Right. So I think it doesn't have to be incredibly high production value, but I think it does have to give a suggestion of what you're capable of and what your also what your personal aesthetic is.
And people will forgive bad video before they forgive bad audio.
I think so,
it's
right?
It's just something that, even in an independent film, you can have a beautifully shot thing or a horribly shot thing. Look at Blair Witch.
Yeah, I know.
The Blair Witch or those things that was just horribly shot, and in the way it was, but it was very badly done in the style. But the audio was good. If the audio was like,
no, you just don't want to be.
You could put $200 million in bad audio, and not so much. Now, which brings me to the next question. When filmmakers sometimes are it's kind of like going into the Shark Tank. They overestimate their value of what they're trying to get and what they're trying to do. So, when they go in I need $1 million for my first feature film that's starring my best friend from high school. And it's a drama. We're going to shoot it in black and white. And I've never really shot anything. Have you seen this? I'm sure.
No, we see this kind of stuff all the time. But I think, a lot of what my job is just to kind of, just encourage people, help people to be really realistic about what they're able to raise. And it's not a reflection of the quality of a project. It's usually more a reflection of what are your pre-existing networks? Do you have an email list that you're already regularly updating people on? Are you kind of active and really interesting on Twitter or some other social media platform? So I think it's much less about your project's good, your project's bad. It's more what have you got that you can leverage?
Right, because there was a project a while ago that I saw on Kickstarter that they raised, I think 1.2 million or something like that. But they had a massive online presence, a massive email list that they've been building up, and their audience was just like this. And they were going for 250,000.
Yeah, I mean, a project like Mystery Science Theater already has all of those people, and those those projects which come out of a project that was beloved of people in the past, people who maybe were kids and now are at their peak earning capacity. It's like,
do you see the Star Wars?
Ladies and gentlemen, exactly. And so that again, it's not a reflection necessarily of the quality of the project. That one was great, but much more about what is there already to leverage? Whose hearts and minds are already deeply committed to this thing.
And you got your start in documentary, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I think one thing the documentary does so well is they're able to identify their audience really crystal clear. They're just laser focused on their audience, much more than narrative. It's much harder with narrative than it is with documentary because if you have a documentary about dog fighting, that's an audience. You can target that audience. If it's I always use the vegan chef movie. The movie's about vegan chefs or about getting healthier. Yoga, those are things that you can pinpoint. And I feel that narrative filmmakers don't do it as well. Do you agree?
I think it's you're right. There's some kind of competitive advantage kind of baked into docs. I think in addition to the fact that a documentary filmmaker is often not making the film until they're making the film. I mean, they didn't know they were making the film, and they were just like,
I'm going to go shoot some stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to go and shoot some stuff. They're like kind of follow their nose. So actually, by the time they're raising money, they may actually have quite a lot of the footage in the can. And often, if they feel that there's a film there, and that means that they've actually got some really compelling stuff in the can.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show.
So I think there's that is like it's easier to kind of draw people in because you're drawing them in with really, what is going to be in the film in the end. And I think you're right that like it's probably more often that I speak to narrative filmmakers and they say, I want to make a film for everyone. I really think this film could reach to everyone.
Yeah.
To which I say, if you're making a film for everyone, the risk is you'll make a film for no one. And so it is a kind of a process of, yes, exactly, getting them to be incredibly specific. Like what 2-3 communities are we talking about here?
It's like they say niches are in the riches are in the niches.
Yeah.
Because it's true. Like you got to niche down. And I think in the independent world, I think it's so important to niche down. Because I've had so many filmmakers I've talked to, they're like, yeah, I'm going to make this wide audience. I'm like, you don't have $100 million for marketing to get it to, males from 18 to 35. That's not a demographic you can hit.
Yeah.
But you could hit people who are against dogfighting or people who are against GMOs or something like that.
20 to 25-year-old men who love MMA. I don't know. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
It's like, now that's a group of people we can figure out where they are and we can find them. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Of course, the niches thing doesn't work for me because I pronounce it niche. So
it's a niche.
Then I'd be saying the riches are in the niches. And
the riches are in the...
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work for you as much.
Alex.
Fair enough.
I'll find something else.
We'll find something else. Now, with you were talking about leveraging. When you leverage, and this is something I think filmmakers, especially when they're crowdfunding, don't understand what they have to do as far as marketing it and leveraging whatever networks they have and doing all this before they'd spend their time putting together a Kickstarter campaign or a crowdfunding campaign because they're just basically sending out the links to their mom and their friends. So I'm like, well, that's just friend crowding. Or mom, don't even go through the crowdfunding campaign at that point. Just call your friends, call your money, and get money.
Give them to write a check.
Right, just write them a check, as opposed to trying to reach people who are not in your inner circle. Understanding social media, understanding email, which is so powerful. Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you're kind of spot on there. I think one of the things I'm encouraging people to do is not just thinking of this kind of this big kind of time commitment, which running a campaign like this is, as just being, you're putting in this time to raise this money, but actually thinking of it in a much grander sense, which is this work that you're going to do, preparing for and running this campaign is going to pay dividends throughout the life of this film and probably throughout the life of your career. Relationships that you build now through your outreach may well be relationships that come back around again and again and again, this project, future projects. So that's one thing, because what I'm then going on to say is to give them a kind of to-do list, which is incredibly long and can be quite overwhelming. So just have to encourage them that this is like an investment in the, in the long term.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. Basically, the key is in the preparation.
Takes about, how long should you prep? About 90 days, right?
Yeah.
At least 90.
I think. Well, it doesn't have to. Yeah, I think 3 months is a really good kind of benchmark.
Okay.
And spending that time doing this work of identifying those communities, figuring out what are all the different ways I can get to that community, where are they, where do they live online, simultaneously building up your database of contacts, just really kind of going through it all,
and building content to feed that audience. And it doesn't have to be specifically your content, it could be just content that they want.
I think we kind of figure on a sort of like a 70-30 ratio, which is once you've got that, you've got your Facebook page up and running or your Twitter account or however it is you think you're going to best communicate your kind of vision to your audience, your potential audience. 70% of the time you need to be feeding them stuff that they want. And you can 30% of the time you can pair that with an ask.
Stuff,
yeah, exactly. But once you kind of, once that balance falls out a little bit, people start rolling their eyes.
It's kind of the Gary V thing, Gary Vaynerchuk, jab, 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 right hook.
Right.
It's that whole, He's right on with social media. You're like,
bring him in,
give him, then ask something. Give, then ask something.
Let's just not make it too much of a violent analogy.
Yes,
though.
exactly.
I like to think that this is about bringing people in.
You know what? Fair enough.
Maybe it's like tickle, 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 hug.
Tickle.
Just like,
you know what? I'm going to use tickle.
Come
tickle.
on.
I'm going to call Gary up. I'm going to say, you need to change the name.
It's my fault. I introduced MMA to this conversation. But
you did bring the MMA into the situation.
It's my fault. Tickle, tickle, tickle.
So tell me a little bit about what Kickstarter is doing for filmmakers, because I know back in the day when Kickstarter first started, it's very much in the DNA, as we were saying, of the company, the arts and everything. So what is Kickstarter doing now for filmmakers? Because now, for a lot of times, as far as the branding is concerned, at least in my head, it's like it's the latest pen that makes coffee, as opposed to you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So so Kickstarter's just become this monster thing. What is Kickstarter doing specifically for filmmakers?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're obviously very active in all areas of creative life, including the pen that makes the Manhattan. But
I would donate to that.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, don't knock it.
Right.
But I mean, we have a really wonderful community outreach team, and that is people like me and the rest of my film team, which are really just kind of working one-on-one with filmmakers. We tend to meet them like at festivals, in markets when they're projects are in production and they're looking for funding. And we're working one-on-one with those filmmakers to make sure that their campaigns are the best that they can be and that they have this intel, which is like, whoa, don't launch your campaign yet. You've got some research to do.
So you actually hold their hand a little bit.
I'm doing, I don't know maybe how much of my time, maybe 30 or 40% is working with filmmakers. Okay. More broadly, we have kind of other initiatives like our artist residency. So we've had over the last 2 artist residencies, which we piloted earlier in 2017, 3 sets of filmmakers who've come in. They've come in for 3 months, used the office, maybe edited their film there, maybe run their campaign from there. So we have this platform which reaches millions, and then we're also doing this kind of much more tailored one-on-one work with particular focus on female filmmakers, filmmakers from the queer community, and filmmakers of color. We also run a sort of rough cut screening series. We have a theatre in our office in New York. So every week or two, we've got a filmmaker coming in and screening a rough cut for maybe their funders, maybe their execs, maybe their creative team. So that stuff is it's not enormously scalable, but it's very important for us to kind of have our sort of a very hands-on relationship with our kind of immediate film community. And then I guess the other kind of sort of big news from the last 2 or 3 months is a new product that we just launched called Drip, which is about filmmakers, and not just filmmakers, but artists being able to secure funding that is not kind of one specific project or campaign based, but actually ongoing funding. Which is going to allow them to be more sustainable, to receive funding every month to keep them and their practice kind of sustained. And
is it something like they give for that? Is it that like they give exclusives to some of their art or some of their things? That's the kind of
exactly. And what we've tried to do is to encourage people, like, if you're a filmmaker, don't feel that you only have to offer your supporters films. Like, if you're a filmmaker who's also has a sideline in photography or is a wonderful poet, we're encouraging people to explore their kind of their creative practice in its broadest sense, and offer that up to their backers
as well.
Cool. So it's sort of an opportunity for them to not just sustain but also build.
Now, what is one of the biggest mistakes you see first-time filmmakers do in crowdfunding?
I mean, we kind of touched it, like not prepare.
Okay.
Make a video that is 8 minutes long.
And bad audio.
Yeah, and has bad audio. I think that's probably, offer 30 different rewards that involves them making a lot of stuff that isn't making their film. I'm mostly encouraging people to keep it simple. Please simplify. Just a few rewards. Yeah, can we talk a little bit about rewards? What should, because that's a big kind of gray area, and there's a lot of misinformation about rewards. Like, how much stuff should you do? Yeah. Because when you do, you could go crazy. I've seen 40 rewards.
and I've seen 5.
Yeah.
So what do you suggest? And then what out of the number? But then what do you suggest you give? I mean, it's case by case, obviously.
It really depends on what kind of film it is, and what your hook is.
Mm-hmm.
If it is if it's like the Joan Didion documentary, well, then your hook's going to be Joan Didion. But if it's a kind of a narrative short.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show.
About something, a kind of, I don't know, characters that we don't know anything about, and it's played by actors we don't know, then it's, you're not going to tie your rewards so much to those lead actors or
right. Yeah.
So it varies, but I tend to say, look, keep it like 7 levels or lower. Try not to produce too many physical things, because you're not a t-shirt factory, you're a filmmaker, and like when this completes, I want you to go and make a wonderful film, not a great t-shirt.
Right.
Sometimes that's going to work, offering some kind of physical reward, but I try and at those
digital
lower
rewards
levels
or
do digital rewards,
executive producer.
Yeah, and if you're smart about it, those things don't feel like a consolation. They're like, that's meaningful kind of access and insight. But does the world need another mug?
Probably not. But I mean, if you offer off like a co-producer credit, executive producer credit that they get on IMDb, and they get either have access to the premiere and all that stuff, that's big.
Totally,
that's very big. I know a couple guys that they just want to have their IMDb credits.
Yeah.
For a co-producer, and they'll throw $1,000 down.
Yeah, and people want to be part of something.
They want to say, I also was part of that.
Yeah, yeah, and they don't just want to be able to say it, but they a lot of people want to join something. Not everyone has the privilege to work in a creative field,
right?
But most people value the creative fields. Right. So to feel that you have catalyzed someone else's vision and to then be included in their family as a result of that is gratifying. And so, yes, I want to come to a screening with my fellow backers. Like that's community. So I'm definitely always encouraging that kind of, think that you are creating a community, and how do you do that?
And never underestimate the power of wanting to belong.
Yeah.
And wanting to join.
Yeah.
Even a small rebellion. But just join a group of people to do something. And you're right, there's a lot of dentists and doctors and other people out there that are like, oh God, I've always wanted to be in films, but I can't, but at least I can donate $2-3 and be a part of it.
Yeah. Or I don't really have an idea for a film, but if I did, I wish it had been that idea. And I want to help this person, realize that dream. So I think that's very powerful, and it's good not to underestimate the power of that.
Now, what should be on the actual crowdfunding page? Because there's a design, a good design. How do you lay it out, in your opinion? To convert?
To convert, I think that personal connection, the sort of like, why this film? Why you? Why are you making this film? Why should you be the one? And why now? So like to give that kind of a sense of urgency. Like, this film is a film for now because. And I'm not saying that it has to be kind of sort of deeply focused on some kind of current issue, but I think some sense of why we should care right now. So like really rooting the project in the why and the now it is going to kind of serve you. I don't think there's a structure, a kind of structure. It would be very boring to browse
the same thing again,
to browse projects. Yeah, exactly, on the site. If you were like, and now it does.
So and do you also recommend like just leveraging whatever you have? So if you have actors, leverage those actors. If you have a location, leverage that. If you have something else, leverage it. Yeah.
If you have a composer that's kind of worked on a bunch of great stuff, or a band that's like locally known that's going to do the theme tune at the end of it. I think exactly recognize it's about kind of building a map of your project and recognizing what are the assets. And they might be things that you didn't realize were assets. Like,
right.
It just takes sometimes, it's part of that kind of strategy work of like, what have we got here? What are the access points into this project? And then building out from there. We had a project that was set and shot in Big Sur. So actually those filmmakers offered like kind of inspiration guide, how they had, how they had been inspired to set it in Big Sur. They offered, one of their rewards was kind of like a digital list of all of the places and the hikes, places they'd been and loved, the hikes that they'd been on while they researched and shot the film. That's
super valuable.
Yeah, it became a resource. People didn't have to give very much to get that, but it kind of felt very personal and specific to the film. So I think, yeah, exactly. Figuring out what are the hidden assets here, and then putting them to work.
Now, what advice would you give a filmmaker just starting out in the business?
Whoa.
That's a heavy question. I asked that question of all my guests. I
don't know. I think it's something about hustling. You gotta hustle.
No pun intended.
Oh, yeah. Dang.
Yes. Well,
you do. And like you see an opening, you gotta go for it. You see someone walking down the street, here, you gotta go for it. I mean, don't be an irritant.
Yes,
there's ways to do it and there's ways to do it.
Yes.
Don't bug someone while they're clearly
eating, with their family.
They're off duty. But
sure.
You gotta
hustle.
The most.
And you have to hustle 24/7 for years.
Yeah.
For years. Now, what is the lesson that took you the longest to learn, whether in the film industry or in life?
Oh,
These are deep. I told you.
You could have given me a heads up.
Next time, sorry.
I suspect the biggest lessons of my life I haven't learned yet.
That's a good answer. I've had that a couple times on the show. Very good. And what are 3 of your favorite films of all time?
Oh my days!
Just today, what comes to your head? I'm not going to hold you to this. It's not going to be on your gravestone. I
know. I still love Truly, Madly, Deeply.
That's a great movie.
I still love it.
Not a lot of people know about that movie with Alan Rickman. It was great movie.
I could weep at that one.
Yeah.
In the car from Salt Lake City to here. Actually, no, maybe it was the car to the airport. My colleague Iabo and I literally listed all of our favorite Whoopi Goldberg movies.
Okay.
Yeah, of which I would say I'm going to put forward Jumping Jack Flash.
Okay,
although our entry point to that was the point in Ghost when she can't let go of the check. So maybe
obviously.
That. For my...
obviously.
And for my last film, I'll say The Devil and Daniel Johnston.
Oh, that's a great movie too. Very cool. Well, Elise, thank you so much for being on the show and dropping some knowledge bombs on the tribe.
Thank you for this Manhattan.
And it's a great Sundance so far. It's quiet right now. We're just starting out, but hopefully we'll drop some snow.
It will. All right.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Elise dropped some major knowledge bombs on the tribe today. Thank you so much, Elise, for coming in and sharing all of your insider tips on how to make a successful crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter. If you guys want links to anything we talked about in this episode, head over to indiefilmhustle.com/217. I'm going to be out quick today, guys, because I am working on that top secret project that I will be announcing very soon. But February is going to be a busy, busy month for me. So bear with me, but I will keep popping out this content as fast as I possibly can. Keep that hustle going, keep that dream alive, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Indie Film Hustle podcast at indiefilmhustle.com. That's INDIEFILMHUSTLE.com.